The space around the Andromeda Gate burned with weapons fire. Captain Hansol gripped the arms of his command chair as another explosion rocked his ship. Through the viewport, he could see hundreds of vessels locked in deadly combat. Ships from 12 different species fought together against the enemy they all feared, the Reaper fleet. For 30 years, the war had raged across the galaxy. The Reapers appeared without warning, striking fast and disappearing into the darkness between stars. No one knew where they came from. No one knew what they wanted. They only knew that wherever the Reapers went, entire worlds fell silent. "Captain, their flagship is breaking through Sector 7. Lieutenant Sung-hee called out from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, pulling up tactical displays. Admiral Taeyang's forces are being pushed back. Hansol studied the battle map. The Reaper flagship was a massive black vessel, larger than any 3 council ships combined. At its helm was the figure they called the Reaper. He wore ornate armor and a mask that hid his face. In every battle, he fought with impossible skill. Countless soldiers had tried to kill him. All had failed. "Redirect all power to engines," Hansol ordered. "We're going in." "Sir, that's suicide," Sung-hee protested. "Their defenses will tear us apart." "Look at the pattern," Hansol pointed to the screen. "They're focusing all firepower on the Admiral's fleet. If we hit them from the side now, we might have a chance." Sung-hee studied the display for a moment, then nodded. "I see it. There's a gap in their formation." Hansol activated the fleet-wide communication channel. "All human ships, this is Captain Hansol. Follow my lead. We're ending this today." The human contingent of the Galactic Council's forces broke formation. 20 ships accelerated toward the Reaper flagship, moving as one. Enemy fire lit up the darkness around them. 3 ships exploded before they even got close, but Hansol kept his course steady. "Shields at 40%, someone called out. "Keep going," Hansol said. Another explosion. Another ship lost, but they were getting closer. The Reaper flagship tried to turn its massive weapons toward them, but it was too slow. Hansol's fleet was already inside its defensive perimeter. He gave the order to fire everything they had. Missiles and energy beams slammed into the black hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a section of the flagship's armor cracked open. Atmosphere vented into space in a white cloud. "We've got a breach," Sung-hee shouted. "Boarding pods away." Small pods shot from Hansol's ship toward the opening in the enemy vessel. Each pod carried 10 soldiers in full combat armor. Hansol was in the first pod. He'd never asked his people to do anything he wouldn't do himself. The pod shook violently as it flew through the gap in the hull. Then it slammed into something solid and the doors burst open. Hansol rushed out with his weapon ready. They were inside the Reaper flagship. The corridors were dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered red along the walls. Hansol's team moved quickly through the maze of passages. They'd studied the layout of enemy ships for years. The command deck should be 3 levels up. Enemy soldiers appeared from side corridors. They wore black armor without markings. The fighting was brutal and quick. Hansol's team had trained for this moment. They moved like one organism, covering each other, advancing steadily. More council soldiers poured in behind them, not just humans now. There were Vorthians with their 4 arms and thick armor. There were Zentari, small and fast, perfect for close combat. The entire Galactic Council had come together for this final push. They reached the command deck faster than Hansol expected. The doors were massive, made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Dong-hyun, their engineer, worked frantically to override the locks. Explosions echoed through the corridor behind them as more enemy soldiers tried to push them back. "Almost there," Dong-hyun muttered, sweat running down his face despite the cold. The doors suddenly slid open. The command deck was circular, filled with strange technology, and in the center, standing alone, was the Reaper. He was tall, wearing black armor decorated with strange symbols. His mask was smooth and featureless except for 2 eye slits that glowed with red light. In his hands, he held 2 curved blades that hummed with energy. "So you finally made it," the Reaper said. His voice was deep, distorted by his helmet. "I wondered how long it would take." Hansol raised his weapon. "It's over. Your fleet is defeated. Surrender now," the Reaper laughed. It was a strange sound, almost sad. "Defeated? Is that what you think happened?" Then he moved. Hansol barely saw it. The Reaper crossed the distance between them in less than a second. His blades flashed. 2 of Hansol's soldiers fell before anyone could react. The command deck erupted into chaos. Everyone fired at once, but the Reaper moved like smoke. He was everywhere and nowhere. His blades cut through armor like paper. His movements were too fast, too perfect. Not even enhanced humans could match his speed. Sung-Hee came in from the side, firing her weapon in controlled bursts. The Reaper dodged, but for just a moment he was distracted. That moment was all Han Sol needed. He rushed forward and slammed into the Reaper, knocking him off balance. They crashed into a control console. Sparks flew. Han Sol tried to pin the Reaper down, but the enemy was stronger than he looked. They rolled across the floor, fighting for control. Now, Han Sol shouted. Sung-Hee fired. The blast hit the Reaper in the side, right where his armor plates connected. The Reaper went rigid, his body locking up. The energy blades fell from his hands and clattered across the floor. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the Reaper fell to his knees, his body twitching from the shock of the weapon's blast. Throughout the ship, throughout the entire enemy fleet, something changed. All the Reaper vessels suddenly powered down. Their weapons went silent. Their engines stopped. They just drifted in space like dead things. What's happening? Sung-Hee asked. Admiral Taeyang's voice came through their communication devices. All Reaper ships have stopped fighting. I repeat, all enemy vessels are powered down. We've won! By all the stars, we've actually won. Cheers erupted across the fleet-wide channel. 30 years of war, and it was finally over. Han Sol could hear people crying with relief and joy. Some ships fired their weapons into empty space in celebration. Others flashed their lights in victory patterns, but Han Sol didn't celebrate. He walked slowly toward the fallen Reaper, who lay motionless on the deck. The war was over because they'd defeated this one person. It didn't make sense. Why would an entire fleet depend on a single commander? Sir, should we take him prisoner? One of his soldiers asked. Yes, Han Sol said quietly. But first I want to see his face. He knelt beside the Reaper. The enemy's armor was damaged, sparking from Sung-Hee's shot. The mask that had terrified the galaxy for 3 decades was right there in front of him. Han Sol reached out with both hands. The mask's locks released with a soft click. Han Sol lifted it slowly, not sure what he expected to see. A monster? An alien species they'd never encountered? Something else entirely? The face beneath the mask made Han Sol drop the helmet in shock. Sung-Hee gasped behind him. All around the command deck, soldiers stopped and stared. The Reaper was human. Not just human, but young, maybe 30 years old. He had the features of someone from East Asia, from Earth. His eyes were closed, his breathing shallow. That's impossible, Sung-Hee whispered. Run a bioscan now. Dong-hyun pulled out a scanner and waved it over the unconscious man. He stared at the results, his face going pale. Captain, you need to see this. Han Sol looked at the scanner's display. Name Jae-sung. Origin, Seoul, Earth. Military ID confirmed. Status. Listed as killed in action 25 years ago. The galaxy's greatest enemy, the monster who had destroyed countless worlds, was one of their own. He was human, and according to every database in the Council, he'd been dead for a quarter century. The cheering continued across the fleet channels, but in the Reaper's command deck, nobody made a sound. They all stood in silence, staring at the impossible truth. Victory suddenly felt very different. The medical bay aboard Admiral Taeyang's flagship was crowded. Officers from all 12 Council species pressed against the observation windows, trying to see the prisoner inside. Armed guards stood at every entrance. No one was taking chances with the Reaper, even though he lay unconscious and restrained on the examination table. Dr. Ji-woo worked quietly, running scan after scan. She was the best medical officer in the human fleet, an expert in both human and alien biology, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this. The scans are complete, she announced, her voice tight with stress. I've run them 3 times to be sure. Admiral Taeyang stepped closer to the window. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face marked by 3 decades of war. Behind him stood Ambassador Krelix, a Vorthian whose 4 arms moved nervously. Captain Han Sol and Lieutenant Sung-Hee stood to the side, still in their combat armor. Tell us what you found, Taeyang said. Ji-woo pulled up the results on a large display. He's human. Completely 100% human. No genetic modifications, no alien hybridization. Nothing unusual at all. His DNA matches the military records for Corporal Jae-sung, missing and presumed dead 25 years ago. Could he be a clone? Sung-Hee asked. Some kind of copy? No, Ji-woo shook her head. Clones have markers we can detect. This man grew naturally from birth. And there's more. She pulled up another scan. His body shows evidence of extensive combat experience. Old injuries healed, muscle development consistent with decades of fighting. But here's what doesn't make sense. She pointed to cellular analysis data. His cells show signs of advanced life extension treatment. Technology far beyond what the Council possesses. He should be 50 years old based on his records, but his body has aged maybe 10 years at most. Someone gave him treatments we've never seen before. Ambassador Krelix's translator device crackled. This is impossible. Where would a human get access to such technology? We've shared everything with Earth since first contact 40 years ago. Maybe someone else made contact, Hansol said quietly. Before the Council found us, everyone turned to look at him. The idea was disturbing. The Galactic Council prided itself on being the first to contact and welcome humanity to the larger universe. But what if they weren't the first? We need answers, Taeyang said. Wake him up. Jiwoo looked uncertain. Admiral, he's dangerous. Even restrained, I know what he is, Doctor. But we need to know why. Wake him up. Jiwoo injected something into Jae-sung's arm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his eyes opened. They were dark brown, ordinary human eyes. But the way they looked around the room was anything but ordinary. In seconds, he had assessed every person, every exit, every potential weapon. Where am I? His voice was calm, almost casual. You're aboard the flagship of the Galactic Council, Taeyang said. You're our prisoner. Your fleet has been defeated. Jae-sung was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. It was a bitter sound. Defeated? Is that what you think happened? Your ship's powered down, Hansol said, stepping closer to the window. Your war is over. My war? Jae-sung turned his head to look directly at Hansol. Captain Hansol, isn't it? I've studied your tactical records. You're good. Better than most. But you understand nothing. Then explain it to us, Hansol said. Why did a human become the galaxy's greatest monster? Why did you kill millions of your own people? Jae-sung closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, something had changed in his expression. He looked tired. I need to speak with human command. Only humans, not the Council. That's not going to happen, Taeyang said firmly. You'll talk to all of us, or what? Jae-sung interrupted. Or you'll torture me. Kill me? Go ahead. But then you'll never know the truth. And you'll all die when they arrive. When who arrives? Ambassador Krelix demanded. Jae-sung smiled, but there was no humor in it. You shouldn't have won this battle. My fleet was your only defense. By defeating me, you've just killed everyone in this sector. They're coming now, and you have no idea how to stop them. The room went silent. Everyone stared at the prisoner. He didn't look crazy. He looked serious. Dead serious, he's lying, a Zentari officer said, trying to confuse us. Maybe, Sung-hee said. Or maybe we should listen. Taeyang made a decision. Clear the room. Everyone except human officers. Ambassador Krelix's translator squealed in protest. Admiral, this is highly irregular. The Council has a right. The Council will get a full report, Taeyang said firmly. But right now he wants to talk to humans. Let's hear what he has to say. Reluctantly, the non-human officers left. Soon, only Taeyang, Hansol, Sung-hee, Jiwoo, and Dong-hyun remained. Taeyang nodded to the guards, who also stepped out but remained close to the door. All right, Taeyang said. It's just us now. Talk. Jae-sung looked at each of them in turn. What do you know about First Contact? About how the Council found Earth? Everyone knows that story, Sung-hee said. 40 years ago, a Council exploration ship detected our radio signals. They made peaceful contact. They welcomed us to the galactic community. That's the official story, Jae-sung agreed. It's also a lie. The Council didn't find us. We were always here right where they wanted us. What does that mean? Hansol asked. Jae-sung took a breath. 25 years ago, I was part of a special team. We were investigating ancient ruins on a dead world at the edge of Council space. We found something. A facility. Older than any civilization the Council knows about. Inside were records. The truth about everything. He paused as if gathering courage to continue. The Galactic Council isn't a natural alliance of species. It's a cage. All 12 species, including humans, were planted on our worlds by something called the primacy. We're not exploring the galaxy. We're contained in a tiny section of it, kept isolated from everything beyond. That's insane, Dong-hyun said. Is it? Jae-sung asked. Think about it. Why are all 12 council species so similar in development? Why did we all achieve spaceflight within a few thousand years of each other? Why does all our technology fit together so perfectly? Because we were designed to. We're an experiment. Jiwoo shook her head. Even if that were true, why would anyone do that? Because of what's coming, Jae-sung said quietly. The primacy created these quarantine zones because something was destroying the galaxy. They called it the silence. It erases everything it touches. Stars, planets, entire civilizations just vanish. The primacy tried to fight it and failed, so they created isolated pockets of life, hoping something might evolve that could resist it. And you know this how? Taeyang asked skeptically. Because I found their records. Because I've spent 25 years preparing for what they couldn't stop. The silence is breaking through the barriers. It's already in council space. Your outer colonies aren't just destroyed. They're gone. Deleted from reality. And it's accelerating, Hansol felt cold. You're saying the entire galaxy is being erased? Not just this galaxy, Jae-sung said. The records showed dozens of galaxies already consumed. The silence is entropy itself. It unravels the fundamental forces of reality. And it's almost here. Why should we believe you? Sung-hee demanded. Check your long-range sensors, Jae-sung said. The colonies in the outer reach, try to contact them. Sung-hee pulled out her communication device and sent the request. A moment later, her face went pale. Admiral, there's no response from any of the 14 colonies in the outer reach sector. No signals at all. It's like they were never there. Communication errors, Taeyang said, but his voice wavered. All 14? At the same time? Jae-sung shook his head. You know what it means. The silence has arrived, and you destroyed the only force that was ready to fight it. Your fleet, Hansol said slowly. The Reaper fleet. You weren't trying to destroy the council. You were preparing us. Finally, Jae-sung said. Someone understands. Every battle was a test. Every world I attacked was actually evacuated and fortified. Every soldier I killed was actually recruited. I've been building an army for 25 years. Warriors from all 12 species who know the truth. Who are ready to fight what's coming. Where are they? Taeyang demanded. Waiting, Jae-sung said. My fleet powering down was a signal. Right now my real forces are moving into position, 10 times larger than what you fought today. But it won't be enough. It was never going to be enough. The silence can't be stopped. It can only be delayed. Then what's the point? Jiwoo asked. Jae-sung looked at her with ancient eyes. The point is to buy time. Time for evacuation. Time to find other quarantine zones that might have found answers. Time for some of us to survive and remember. Because if we all die, if every trace of these civilizations is erased, then the primacy's sacrifice meant nothing. He looked around at all of them. I became the monster so you would all become heroes. I made you hate me so you would unite against me. I made myself the enemy so you would all become soldiers. Because that's what this universe needs. Not politicians or diplomats. Soldiers willing to face the impossible. You're asking us to believe that everything we fought for was a lie, Hansol said. No, Jae-sung corrected. I'm asking you to believe that you fought for something greater than you knew. Your courage was real. Your sacrifices mattered. But now you need to make a choice. Court-martial me and die in ignorance. Captain Min Seo sat across from Jae-sung in the interrogation room. She was an intelligence officer, trained to detect lies and extract truth. She'd broken hardened criminals and enemy agents, but the man in front of her was different. He answered every question with calm certainty, never hesitating, never contradicting himself. 3 days had passed since the battle. 3 days of chaos and confusion. The council was divided. Half wanted Jae-sung executed immediately. The other half was paralyzed by fear because his warnings were proving true. More colonies had gone silent. The outer reach was now completely dark. Tell me about the architects, Min Seo said, reviewing her notes. You mentioned them before. Who are they? Jae-sung leaned back in his chair. His hands were restrained, but he looked relaxed. The architects are a human organization. Founded 39 years ago, 1 year after first contact with the council. Before you were even born, Min Seo noted. Yes, the founders were scientists and military officers who didn't trust the council's story. First contact was too convenient. Too perfect. They started investigating, looking at inconsistencies in the historical records the council shared, gaps in the archaeological evidence, things that didn't add up. And they found something? They found everything, Jae-sung said. hidden facilities on abandoned worlds, primacy technology that the Council either didn't know about or chose to ignore. And eventually, they found the truth. That humanity wasn't discovered by accident. We were planted here just like every other Council species, Minseo wrote quickly. How did they recruit you? I found them, Jae-sung corrected. When I was 23, I was stationed on a research vessel near the Galactic Rim. We discovered an anomaly, a structure that shouldn't exist. My commanding officer ordered us to ignore it and move on, but I couldn't. I went back alone. He smiled slightly, remembering. Inside that structure, I found an architect team. They'd been studying it for months. They showed me the records, showed me what was coming, and they asked me if I wanted to help save humanity. I said yes, just like that. You abandoned your entire life? I didn't abandon anything, Jae-sung said firmly. I was reported as killed in action. My family received full honors. My service record was sealed. As far as the galaxy knew, Corporal Jae-sung died a hero, and in a way he did. What I became was something else. The Reaper. Yes. The architects needed someone to unite the Council through conflict. Someone who could test every species, push them to their limits, force them to become better. It had to be someone human, because humans were the newest species, the most aggressive, the most unpredictable. Minseo studied his face. You killed millions of people. I evacuated millions of people, Jae-sung corrected. Every world the Reaper fleet attacked, we sent advance teams days before. We identified everyone who would fight to the end, who wouldn't evacuate. Those were the people we recruited. The others we moved to hidden stations in deep space, safe zones we'd been building for years. We found no evidence of these safe zones. Of course not. That was the point. The Council had to believe I was a monster. Otherwise, they wouldn't fight hard enough. They wouldn't evolve. Counselor Vexthor had been listening from behind a one-way mirror. He was Zentari, one of the older species in the Council. His translator crackled as he spoke through the intercom. This is all convenient lies. You want us to believe you're a hero, not a war criminal. Jae-sung looked directly at the mirror. I don't care what you believe, Counselor. I care what you do. Because the silence is coming and belief won't stop it. Action will. The door opened. Admiral Taeyang entered with Captain Hansol. Both looked exhausted. They'd been dealing with the growing crisis for days without sleep. We need proof, Taeyang said without greeting. You claim the primacy left records. Show us. I can't, Jae-sung said. The main archive was destroyed when the silence reached it 3 days ago. But there's another source. The architects retrieved something from one of the facilities. An AI fragment from the primacy. It's damaged, barely functional, but it can confirm what I've told you. Where is it? Hansol asked. My flagship. In a shielded chamber 3 levels below the command deck. But you'll need Donghyun to access it. The security protocols require advanced engineering knowledge. Hansol activated his communicator. Get Donghyun to the Reaper flagship immediately. 2 hours later, they stood in a darkened chamber deep in the captured vessel. Donghyun worked at a strange console, his face illuminated by alien symbols. This technology is incredible, he muttered. Nothing like Council design. It's more elegant, more advanced. Can you access the AI? Taeyang asked impatiently. Working on it. Donghyun's fingers moved quickly. Then something clicked, and the chamber filled with soft blue light. A holographic form appeared above the console. It looked almost human, but translucent, flickering. Witness protocol activated. The form said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. State your inquiry. Everyone stared. Minseo found her voice first. What are you? I am a fragment of the Witness archive, created by the primacy to record and preserve knowledge for future cycles. Cycles? Hansol asked. The primacy believed in cycles of civilization. Rise, fall, rebirth. They hoped that by seeding quarantine zones, some species might survive the current cycle and find answers for the next. Taeyang stepped forward. Tell us about the silence. What is it? The hologram flickered as if struggling with the question. The silence is entropy manifest. The universe tends toward disorder. The silence is that tendency given purpose and direction. It does not destroy. It unravels. It returns all complex structures to their simplest state. Can it be stopped? Minseo asked. The primacy attempted to stop it for 10,000 years. They failed. The silence cannot be stopped. It can only be disrupted, creating temporary pockets of stability. How? Jae-sung asked, leaning forward despite his restraints. Through sacrifice. Living beings contain complexity. Consciousness itself is order imposed on chaos. By releasing that order in controlled ways, brief disruptions in the silence's advance can be created. The room went quiet as everyone processed what that meant. They would have to die to slow it down. And even then, they would only buy hours or days. How much time do we have? Tae-yang asked. The silence has breached the outer barriers. Current progression rate suggests complete consumption of this quarantine zone in 47 days. 47 days. Less than 2 months until everything they knew ceased to exist. Show us the records, Hansel said. Show us everything. The hologram flickered again. Then the chamber filled with images. Ancient beings, tall and graceful, with technology beyond imagination. The primacy at their height spanning galaxies. And then the darkness coming, stars vanishing, worlds unmade, the desperate retreat. The quarantine zones created as a last hope. They watched 12 species being seeded on 12 worlds. Watch those species evolve, guided by hidden primacy technology. Watch the careful cultivation of civilizations that might one day stand against the impossible. You were designed for different purposes, the witness explained. The Vorthians for their strength and durability, the Zentari for their speed and adaptability, others for specific traits. But humans were the last seed. The emergency option. What does that mean? Min Seo asked. The primacy recognized they were failing. The silence was advancing faster than predicted. They needed a species that could evolve quickly, adapt rapidly, and most importantly, refuse to accept extinction. Humans were engineered with an unusual trait. You do not accept reality as it is. You always believe you can change it. Jae-sung laughed quietly. They made us stubborn. They made you hope, the witness corrected. And hope, however illogical, is a powerful force. More images appeared. The primacy's final days, their desperate experiments, their failure, and then 50,000 years of silence as the seeded species grew in their isolated zones. The quarantine zones were never meant to last forever, the witness said. They were meant to buy time. Time for evolution to create something the primacy couldn't. Something capable of resisting entropy itself. Did we? Tae-yang asked. Did any species evolve that ability? The hologram flickered uncertainly. Unknown. The primacy never discovered such an ability. But they believed it was possible. They believed consciousness itself might be the key, that enough organized minds working in harmony might create something capable of pushing back. Hansol turned to Jae-sung. Is that what you've been trying to create? A unified force? Yes, Jae-sung said. The council species were too comfortable, too specialized, too willing to maintain the status quo. I needed to forge them into something new, something that could work together perfectly under impossible pressure. By making them hate you, Min Seo said quietly. By giving them a common enemy, by forcing humans to become better soldiers, Vorthians to become better strategists, Centauri to become better pilots. Every species had to exceed their designed purpose. And the only way to do that was through conflict they couldn't ignore. Vexthor's voice came through the intercom again. You're asking us to forgive decades of war because you claim it was for our own good? I'm not asking for forgiveness, Jae-sung said. I'm asking you to use what you've learned. My fleet commanders have been training mixed species teams for years. Commander Hyo-jun watched the view screen as thousands of ships emerged from dark space. They came in perfect formation, vessels from all 12 council species flying together. But these weren't council ships. They were Reaper fleet vessels painted black, bearing the mark of the organization that had terrified the galaxy for 3 decades. Hyo-jun was young, only 32, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone much older. He'd been Jae-sung's student for 10 years, his protege, and now as the real Reaper fleet revealed itself, he was its acting commander. Signal all ships, Hyo-jun ordered. Maintain formation. Wait for the Admiral's command. On the bridges of council vessels, panic was spreading. Sensors were detecting a fleet 10 times larger than what they'd fought days earlier. Admiral Tae-yang sent an emergency message on all channels. Hold your fire. These vessels are not hostile. Repeat, hold your fire. But trust was fragile. Several council ships charged weapons anyway. Hyo-jun watched them carefully. One wrong move could start a battle that would doom them all. Then Jae-sung's voice came through the communication systems. Stand down, Commander. I'm back in command. Relief flooded through Hyo-jun. Sir, it's good to hear your voice. We were worried, I know. But Captain Hansol and Admiral Tae Yang understand now. We're sending you coordinates. Bring the fleet to the rendezvous point. It's time to show the Council what we've really been building. The massive fleet began moving. Not toward the Council forces, but away. Toward a dark region of space marked as empty on all official charts. But it wasn't empty. As the ships approached, hidden stations came online, their lights flickering to life. Massive structures appeared, some as large as moons. Hansol stood beside Jae Sung on the bridge of the Admiral's flagship, staring at the view in disbelief. How did you hide all of this? The primacy left behind cloaking technology, Jae Sung explained. We've been building for 25 years. Every person we killed in battle was actually brought here. Every ship we destroyed was actually captured and retrofitted. This is the real war effort. Dr. Yoonji appeared on the communication screen. She was middle-aged with gray streaks in her hair and eyes that had seen too much. Admiral, this is Dr. Yoonji, Chief Scientist of the Architect Program. We've been expecting you. Doctor, Tae Yang said carefully. What exactly have you been building here? Weapons that can disrupt the silence, Yoonji replied. Based on primacy designs. They're not perfect. Nothing can stop the silence completely. But we can create pockets of stability. Buy time. How much time? Lieutenant Sung-hee asked. Yoonji's expression was grim. Hours, maybe days if we're lucky. The silence is accelerating. It's now consuming entire systems in minutes. We've lost contact with the entire outer reach. 47 colonies. Millions of lives. Just gone. The bridge went quiet. Everyone processed the numbers. Millions of people erased from existence. Not dead. Erased. As if they'd never been born. Show us your weapons. Tae Yang ordered. They landed on one of the massive stations. The interior was a hive of activity. Scientists from all 12 species worked together. Integrated teams that would have been impossible months ago. But here, trained under Jae Sung's program, they functioned as one organism. Yoonji led them through corridors to a massive laboratory. In the center was a device unlike anything Hansol had ever seen. It looked organic and mechanical at once, pulsing with energy. We call them entropy bombs, Yoonji explained. They release concentrated order into the silence. Consciousness, memory, life itself, all compressed into a single burst. When detonated, they create a temporary disruption in the silence's advance. Temporary? Min-seo asked. The effect lasts hours at most. But during that time, the silence can't advance through the disruption zone. It has to flow around it. Dong-hyun studied the device with fascination. This is incredible. But I see a problem. These devices, they're powered by what? What creates enough order to disrupt entropy on this scale? Unji met his eyes. Living consciousness. The bombs must be carried by living beings who activate them manually. The device uses their consciousness, their memories, their entire existence as fuel. The horrible truth settled over everyone. These weren't just bombs. They were suicide weapons. How many people does each bomb need? Hansol asked quietly. 1, Yoonji said. 1 person per bomb. Their life creates enough disruption for the effect. Jae Sung stepped forward. This is why I built the Reaper fleet. Why I recruited warriors who understood sacrifice. We need volunteers who will fly directly into the silence and detonate these devices. Enough to create a network of disruption zones. A barrier that might slow the advance long enough for evacuations. How many volunteers do we need? Tae Yang asked. Thousands, Hyojun said, entering the laboratory. We've already got them. Every soldier in the Reaper fleet understands what we're facing. We've known for years this day would come. We're ready. But before anyone could respond, alarms screamed throughout the station. The witness hologram appeared in the laboratory, flickering urgently. Warning. Silence breakthrough detected. Inner reach colonies experiencing rapid deletion. Estimated time to core systems, 14 days. They'd lost 18 more days just bringing the fleets together. Time was collapsing faster than anyone predicted. We need to evacuate now, Jae Sung said. Every civilian, every non-military person, everyone who can't fight needs to leave this sector immediately. Leave to where? Ambassador Krelix demanded. He'd been silent until now, listening. Where in the galaxy is safe? The witness spoke again. The primacy created multiple quarantine zones. 7 confirmed. Current locations unknown, but records indicate they exist beyond the silence's current reach. 1 quarantine zone may have discovered resistance methods the primacy could not. May have? Krellick's translator squealed. You're asking us to abandon our homes based on mayhav? I'm asking you to survive, Jae-sung said firmly. The primacy left coordinates to the general regions of other zones. We'll send refugee fleets in different directions.
Some might reach other survivors.
Some might find answers, and some might just buy enough time to warn whoever comes after us. President Soo-jin appeared on the communication screens. She was the leader of Earth's unified government, a woman in her 60s with iron in her voice. I've been briefed on everything. Captain Hansol, Admiral Taeyang, I'm authorizing immediate evacuation of all Earth systems. We'll coordinate with the other council governments. Some governments won't cooperate, Vexthor warned. Some species will refuse to abandon their homeworlds. Then they'll die with them, Soo-jin said bluntly. I won't force anyone, but I won't let stubbornness kill those who want to live. Begin evacuations immediately. Prioritize children, genetic samples, cultural archives. Everything that makes us who we are must be preserved. Over the next few days, the galaxy descended into controlled chaos. Refugee fleets assembled at rendezvous points. Children were separated from parents who volunteered to fight. Scientists packed genetic samples of every known species. Historians gathered cultural records. Artists preserved their works. And the warriors prepared to die. Hansol walked through one of the Reaper fleet vessels, watching soldiers prepare their entropy bombs. They came from all 12 species. Forthians, Centauri, humans, and 9 others, all working together with perfect coordination. A young human woman checked her equipment. She couldn't have been more than 25. Hansol stopped beside her. Do you understand what you're volunteering for? She looked up at him with calm eyes. Yes, sir. I'll fly into the silence and detonate this device. I'll create a disruption zone that lasts maybe 6 hours. During that time, refugee ships can pass through safely. You'll die, Hansol said quietly. Everyone dies, sir. But not everyone gets to choose how. I choose this. I choose to matter. Hansol found he had no response to that. He simply nodded and moved on. That night, he stood with Jae-sung on an observation deck, watching the refugee fleets prepare to depart. Thousands of ships carrying millions of people, ready to flee into the unknown. Was it worth it? Hansol asked. 25 years as a monster. Was it worth it? Jae-sung was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. I did what I thought necessary. I turned myself into something I hated so others could become heroes. But I'll never know if there was a better way. The young woman I met today, Hansol said, she's ready to die with courage because of what you built. Because you showed her that sacrifice means something. Maybe that's your answer? Sung-hee joined them, carrying data tablets. Final numbers are in. We have 17,000 volunteers for the entropy bombs, enough to create a barrier network across 3 sectors. That should give the refugee fleets a clear path out. 17,000 lives, Jae-sung said softly. 17,000 people who won't see tomorrow. 17,000 people who will save millions, Sung-hee corrected. They know what they're doing. They're not victims, they're warriors. A young Zentari male approached them, saluting. Admiral, Commander Hyojun sends his respects. The assault fleet is ready to deploy. We await your orders. Jae-sung straightened. Tell Hyojun to begin the operation. And tell him. He paused. Tell him I'm proud of what we built together. The Zentari saluted again and left. You're not going with them? Hansol asked. The last Primarch emerged from its stasis chamber like a ghost rising from ancient dreams. It was tall and thin, its body translucent in some places, solid in others. The being that had built civilizations and seeded galaxies was dying, its form breaking apart even as it stood before them. You came, the Primarch said, its voice like distant thunder. I hoped someone would. They had found it in a hidden facility at the edge of the quarantine zone. The witness had led them there, its final act before its own systems failed. Now Jae-sung, Hansol, Sung-hee, and the others stood in the presence of something that had lived for millions of years. You're dying, Dr. Yoon-ji observed, her medical scanner reading impossible data. I have been dying for 50,000 years, the Primarch replied. I remained only to see if the experiment succeeded. If any of you evolved beyond your design, did we? Fleet Admiral Youngsik asked. He commanded the combined Human Council Armada now, the largest military force ever assembled in the quarantine zone. The Primarch's form flickered as it studied them. You survived. Against your design, against your purpose, against reality itself, humans especially. We seeded you as warriors, expecting you to destroy yourselves within a few generations. Instead, you learned to control your aggression, to channel it, to become something we never imagined. Why make us so violent? President Sujin asked. She had insisted on being present for this meeting, even though she was a civilian. Why make us love war? Because the silence respects nothing else, the Primarch said. We tried peace. We tried logic. We tried technology. The silence consumed it all. We thought perhaps beings designed for conflict might find a way to fight it. But we were wrong. Violence alone cannot stop entropy. Then what can? Jae-sung demanded. The Primarch looked at him with ancient eyes. You already know. You've been building it for 25 years. Unity. Not forced cooperation, but genuine understanding. Multiple perspectives working as one. That is something the primacy never achieved. We were one species, one way of thinking. We couldn't see beyond our own limits. It gestured to the group before it. Humans, Vorthians, Centauri, and others all standing together. You are 12 species with 12 different ways of understanding reality. Together you see what no single species can. That is your advantage. That is what might create genuine resistance. Might? Taeyang pressed. After everything, you're still uncertain? The silence is not understood, the Primarch admitted. Even we who studied it for millennia never comprehended its true nature. Is it conscious? Is it inevitable? Is it natural or created? We never learned. But we discovered one thing. The silence hesitates where consciousness is most diverse, where many minds think in many different ways simultaneously. Donghyun understood first. The entropy bombs work because they release consciousness. But a single consciousness creates only a small disruption. Multiple consciousnesses working together might create something larger, something that could actually push back. Precisely, the Primarch said. But it requires perfect synchronization. All minds thinking as one while maintaining their individual perspectives. The primacy never achieved this. We were too similar, too unified in our thinking. But you, it looked at them again. You are different enough to see from multiple angles, yet similar enough to work together. You might succeed where we failed. How do we synchronize our minds? Minaseo asked. The Primarch's form began to break apart more rapidly. I will show you. But understand, this is not a weapon. It is a sacrifice. Everyone who participates will die, but their consciousness will merge, creating a burst of organized complexity that might disrupt the silence permanently in this region. How many people? Young-sik asked. Millions, the Primarch said simply. The volunteers with entropy bombs are thousands. This requires millions. A coalition of consciousness so large that the silence cannot simply flow around it. The horrible mathematics settled over everyone. They needed millions of volunteers to die simultaneously, their minds merged in perfect harmony. I'll do it, Jae-sung said immediately. We all will, Han-sol added. But Su-jin shook her head. No, not all of us. Someone has to survive. Someone has to take the refugees to the other quarantine zones. Someone has to warn them. Someone has to remember. She looked at Jae-sung. You wanted to die as the last Reaper, to sacrifice yourself for everyone else. But that's not your mission anymore. Your mission is to survive, to take everything we learned and share it with whoever comes after. I can't, Jae-sung said. After everything I've done, you can, Su-jin interrupted firmly. And you will, because you're the only one who truly understands all of this. The primacy, the silence, the sacrifice. Someone needs to carry that knowledge forward. And it has to be you. Hyo-jun entered the chamber, his face set with determination. Admiral, the volunteer numbers are in. 4 million soldiers have stepped forward, representing all 12 species. They're ready. 4 million people willing to die. 4 million warriors who understood the stakes. How do we do this? Han-sol asked the Primarch. The dying being reached out with a translucent hand. I will link you. All volunteers will connect through primacy technology. Your consciousnesses will merge temporarily. In that moment of perfect unity, you will release yourselves into reality. The organized complexity of millions of minds will create a disruption the silence cannot ignore. Will it stop the silence completely? Sung-hee asked. No, the Primarch admitted, but it will slow it dramatically in this region. Create a stable zone lasting years, possibly decades. Enough time for the refugees to escape. Enough time for other quarantine zones to prepare. Enough time for someone to find a permanent solution. Then we do it, Young-sik said. Coordinate with all volunteer forces. Begin the synchronization process. Over the next 3 days, the largest military operation in history took shape. 4 million volunteers positioned themselves across 3 sectors. Ships loaded with primacy synchronization technology distributed to every vessel. Refugee fleets prepared for immediate departure the moment the disruption zone formed. Jae-sung walked through the volunteer camps one final time. He spoke with soldiers from every species, heard their stories, learned their names. These people were dying because of decisions he made 25 years ago. The least he could do was remember them. A Vorthian warrior with 4 arms placed one hand on Jae-sung's shoulder. "Don't blame yourself, Admiral. We chose this, all of us. You showed us what was at stake. You gave us a chance to fight for something that mattered. That's a gift." "It doesn't feel like a gift," Jae-sung admitted. "Good," the Vorthian said. "It means you understand the cost. Now make sure we don't pay it for nothing. Survive. Remember, warn the others." Hansol found Jae-sung that evening. "I need you to do something for me." "What?" "My family is in the refugee fleet. My wife, my 2 children. Find them after this is done. Tell them I died doing something important. Tell them I loved them." Jae-sung nodded, unable to speak. "And Admiral?" Hansol smiled slightly. "Thank you. For making me better than I was. For pushing humanity to become more than we thought possible. You were a monster. But you were our monster. And we're grateful." The next morning, the synchronization began. 4 million soldiers lay in primacy connection chambers. Their consciousness began to merge, guided by technology beyond understanding. Jae-sung watched from the command ship that would lead the refugee fleet. He wore his Reaper mask one final time, not as a symbol of fear but as a reminder of what they'd all become. The Primarch's voice echoed across all channels. "The synchronization is complete. The merge will begin in 60 seconds. To all volunteers, your species honor you. Your sacrifice will be remembered. Your courage lights the darkness." Jae-sung watched the countdown. 50 seconds, 40, 30. He saw Hansol in one chamber lying peacefully, Sung-hee in another, Young-sik, Hyojun, Min-seo, Dong-hyun. All the people who had fought beside him, who had believed in him despite everything. 20 seconds, 10. "We do not go quietly into the dark," Jae-sung whispered. The countdown hit 0. 4 million consciousnesses merged into one perfect moment of understanding. Every memory, every thought, every dream and hope and fear combined into a single burst of organized complexity, so vast that space itself shuddered. The silence, advancing like an inevitable tide, struck the barrier, and for the first time in millions of years, it stopped. The wave of entropy crashed against the wall of consciousness and could not pass. The disruption zone formed, stable and strong, a bubble of protected space carved from the heart of oblivion. Inside the protection, the refugee fleets activated their engines. Millions of civilians, children, scientists, historians, artists, everyone who represented hope for the future, fled into the darkness beyond the quarantine zone. They scattered in different directions, following the coordinates to other seeded worlds, carrying the knowledge of what had happened here. Jae-sung's ship was the last to leave. He stood at the viewport, watching the disruption zone pulse with the combined life force of 4 million warriors. They were gone. All of them. But their consciousness remained, woven into reality itself, a monument to what they'd achieved. The Primarch appeared beside him one last time, its form almost completely transparent now. "You succeeded beyond our wildest hopes.